Imagine you and your family have decided to take a sunny vacation to one of the many legendary beaches of Southern California. As you discuss where you'd like to lay your hats for a few relaxing days, your options gleam with exclusivity. The serene shores of Laguna Beach, the elite enclave of Newport Beach, or the secluded sands of Palos Verdes estates. Yet, if we at Old Money Luxury may be so bold, allow us to guide you toward a locale framed by pristine coastlines and imbued with a legendary elegance. The place in question is none other than Huntington Beach, California, affectionately known as Surf City, USA. As your family reclines on the soft, sun-kissed sand, you'd be vacationing in an oasis named after one of California's most legendary families, a clan that at one time was worth the modern equivalent of more than $30 billion, and a lineage that has one of the most scandalous love triangles in US history. In today's episode, we'll tell you the full saga of this Gilded Age dynasty as we describe the Huntingtons, the old money family that built Los Angeles beaches. The wealth of the Huntington family was, in its prime years, a figure too high for the average individual to comprehend. And, though no exact figures can be confirmed, it is estimated that had this family's great empire stood in the 21st century, it would have been worth anywhere from $30 to $50 billion. Furthermore, this wealth was built through the creation of not one, but two railroad companies that not only revolutionized state-to-state travel in the United States, but also deeply lined the Huntington family's pockets for centuries to come. Better year, the wealth of the Huntingtons cannot be quantified into a mere dollar amount, as the family's legacy is cemented further through the plethora of locations that bear the family name. Huntington Beach, California; Huntington House, New York City; Huntington State Park, Connecticut; Huntington High School, Virginia. Everywhere you look, from Arizona to Wyoming, the name Huntington is engraved on the top of buildings, on park benches, and in university books. Indeed, if we were to list every place in America that bears the Huntington name, we would be here all day. And this illustrious old money family also enjoyed political influence that likewise cannot be quantified. The founder of the empire, Collis P. Huntington, for instance, assuaged the decisions made in Congress throughout the 19th century, bending the minds of politicians to his will as a magician fools his spectators. And with such unwavering financial abundance and de facto authority came a life of luxury that most can only imagine. Stately houses in England, an art collection worth over $3 million, mansions situated in Ohio, New York, and a ranch fit for 60 guests at a time. All was but a scratch at the surface of the indulgence with which the Huntingtons enjoyed their lives at the peak of their wealth. But how on earth does a family like the Huntingtons gather so much wealth in the first place? To answer this question, we must travel back to where the Huntington line truly began, 17th century England. You see, the name Huntington, though deeply embedded into American culture in the 21st century, actually has its roots in northern England. The name Huntington is a habitational one, and was given to any person living in the Huntington or Huntana area. The founding father of the Huntington family that we know today, Simon Huntington, was thus English in origin. However, in 1633, Simon Huntington was given an opportunity to board a ship journeying to the new and fruitful land of America. Simon took this opportunity with both hands, seeing it as a way to escape the poverty of England and enjoy the surplus that America had to offer. Though Simon never did make it to the land of the free, tragically passing away on the journey, and leaving his pregnant wife to keep the Huntington flame burning. Thankfully, she was able to make the journey and eventually arrived in modern-day Boston. Subsequent generations of the Huntingtons eventually relocated to Harwinton, Connecticut, and on the 22nd of October 1821, one Collis Potter Huntington was born. And though his forefathers had moved to the United States to elevate their social status, Collis was born into a relatively poor, working-class life. The son of a farmer, Collis's early life was far from glamorous, and his days consisted of farm chores, long hours, and little reward. However, even in his youth, Collis did not see economic limitations. Instead, everything around him was a tool, a conduit that he could use to earn money and secure financial freedom. In his youth, this entrepreneurial spirit led Collis to sell his skills in manual labor to local neighbors, where he would do any job to fill his pockets with cash. And when he was 16, Collis began working as a door-to-door salesman, traveling as far as Virginia to sell his wares. During his time as a salesman, Collis saw an even greater opportunity for financial returns. He theorized that he could make greater financial returns by letting the customers come to him, rather than wasting all of his time knocking on the doors of uninterested civilians. And so, with the help of his brother, Collis set up his first business, a merchandise store, in 1842. It was modest, but it was also fruitful, and the duo would continue to run the business for the next 6 years. By the late 1940s, therefore, Collis Huntington enjoyed a life of relative economic prosperity. However, for a man as hungry as Collis, the fruits of modesty and stability were not sweet enough. He needed something more. And so he turned his attention to Western America, California to be precise. You see, in 1848, the renowned gold rush was in full motion. Hundreds of thousands of hungry individuals were traveling to California soil in the search of economic glory and riches beyond measure. The allure of finding newfound economic returns proved too much for Collis, and he had to get a slice of the pie. And so, as the sun set on the 1840s, Collis said goodbye to his family, his shop, and everything he knew, in pursuit of the riches only California could provide. Now, while most people were traveling to California to mine gold and dig their riches from the earth, Collis Huntington had a different idea. With his prior entrepreneurial experience, he was aware that demand for mining supplies in California was going to be at an all-time high. Yet, the supply available was limited. Thus, teaming up with another businessman, Mark Hopkins, who would later become a key component in the Huntington machine, Collis sought to sell mining supplies to those reaching California. And to say that this decision was successful would be an understatement. Collis received monumental financial returns through this project, giving him the financial resources for his next big plan. You see, during his journey to California, Collis had noticed that there was no one direct railroad running from eastern to western America. And as a result, miners traveling from the east had to risk their lives just to reach California. Collis saw this as an opportunity and proposed to build a rail line through America, running from east to west. To pursue this idea, Collis joined forces with a further 2 entrepreneurs, Leland Stanford and Charles Crocker. These titans of commerce would later be dubbed the Big Four. And so, in 1861, armed with a war chest of financial power and a clear vision, the four created the Central Pacific Railroad Company. Completing this monumental task took around 8 years, during which time Huntington spent his days in Washington, serving as a lobbyist to secure further financing deals and bend political movement to the benefit of the railroad's construction. During the construction of the Central Pacific Railroad, the Big Four also created a new company, the Southern Pacific, in 1865. The goal of this company was to better connect California to New Orleans, to facilitate the state's growth and economy. You see, in the 19th century, California was not the bustling hub that it is now. In fact, it was extremely isolated due to a lack of easily accessible transport routes, and as a result, the state's economy suffered. Its political power was also weakened as a result of its geographical isolation. But with a railroad that made transport to and from California easy, everything would change. Collis likewise served as a lobbyist for this company, ensuring that it always had more funding for expansion and that Congress didn't get in the way of its plans. And under the leadership of the Big Four, Southern Pacific was able to build a 9,600-mile railroad track that became vital to California's development. No longer was California an isolated city. Now it was a connected hub, a land not withdrawn but drawn to other states. And with such success came great personal reward for the Big Four, who received incalculable returns on their investments in both railroad companies. With this newfound wealth, Collis decided to diversify and solidify his financial empire with strategic investments. He invested in land companies in West Virginia, He acquired a steamship line in South America, a construction company, new railroad companies in Virginia, an art collection worth millions of dollars. If something would make him richer, Collis would invest. Ultimately, therefore, in his prime years, few could come close to the power, both economic and political, that Collis Huntington enjoyed. He had cemented his legacy as not only one of the most powerful men the country has ever seen, but also one of the most influential. Yet, the love life of Collis and other Huntington family members is as wild as the rise to wealth this family enjoyed. In the next chapter, we'll dive into one of the most entertaining and infamous aspects of the Huntingtons, their octopus-like love lives. The personal lives of the Huntington family would be great fare for a modern reality TV show or 1990s soap opera, embodying the quintessence of Gilded Age drama and intrigue. You see, Collis P. Huntington first married a woman named Elizabeth Stoddard in 1844. The two enjoyed a seemingly happy marriage, even adopting Elizabeth's niece Clara as their own. However, Collis's romantic life took a particularly dramatic turn when he met Arabella Duval Yarrington, a young woman from the South who moved to New York City following the death of her first husband, Mr. Worsham, being left to raise their son, Archer, alone. Her beauty and wit soon quickly caught the attention of Collis Huntington, who was then married to his first wife. Soon thereafter, Collis and Arabella reportedly began a scandalous affair, and the death of Collis's first wife in 1884 removed the immediate social barriers to their union, and Collis married Arabella later that same year. Now, this marriage not only legitimized their relationship, but also significantly altered Arabella's social standing, propelling her into the upper echelons of American society. Arabella's influence and role as a socialite and philanthropist grew, her keen sense of style and sharp business acumen becoming well recognized. But the plot thickened ever more with the death of Collis in 1900, leaving Arabella a very wealthy widow, with Arabella later marrying none other than Collis's nephew, Henry E. Huntington, in 1913. This union further entangled the family dynamics, as it blended the lines of aunt and uncle with those of husband and wife. This was further evidenced when Collis so easily accepted Arabella's son, Archer, whom she'd given birth to during a previous marriage, leading many to believe that Archer was actually Collis's son, hence his eagerness to make him the heir to the Huntington legacy. Thus, technically, within a few decades, Arabella Huntington was the aunt of her husband, the daughter-in-law of her husband, and the mother-in-law of her nephew. However, this is not to say Arabella did not spend the family dollars frivolously all the time. For instance, after the death of Collis in 1900, Arabella donated $100,000 to the General Memorial Hospital, helping to establish the Huntington Fund for Cancer Research, the first of its kind. She also sought to preserve the beauty of the medieval and Renaissance world by collecting dozens of works of art, items of jewelry, and other priceless antiques. And upon her death in 1924, the majority of her illustrious collection was donated to a number of public institutions, such as Yale University. Now come the tragic death of Collis, the head of the family. In 1900, the burden lay on his children, Clara and Archer, to cement the family name and build on the foundations of his empire. And to do this, the two children used one of the most powerful tools at their disposal, their last name. Both Clara and Archer used this to their advantage, to attract marital partners from equally influential families, to cement the Huntington name even further. Clara, for instance, married into the House of Hatzfeld, a family of infinitely influential German aristocrats, in 1889, partnering with Francie Hatzfeld. Archer, on the other hand, ever the philanthropic, married first the writer Helen Manchester Gates in 1895. However, after surviving a brief capture by German forces in the First World War, the two decided to divorce in 1918. 5 years later, Archer married Anna Hyatt, a sculptor and philanthropist who shared Archer's passion for the preservation of beautiful things. However, neither Clara nor Archer felt ready to take the mantle of their father's commercial empire upon his death. Thus, the duty to expand Collis's business fell to his nephew, the aforementioned Henry Edwards Huntington. Born in 1850 in the metropolis of New York, Henry Huntington's early life was dominated by infatuation over the success of his uncle Collis. The story of his uncle inspired him, and as soon as he was able, he began to work closely alongside his idol, eager to learn and grow his family's empire. As he gained experience, Henry was promoted to an executive of Southern Pacific, overseeing its day-to-day growth and management. Thus, come the death of Collis Huntington in 1900, Henry was a seasoned businessman and ready to take the reins of the Huntington Empire. However, Henry's plans were stifled when his takeover of his uncle's railroad company was blocked by a bondholder representative. The doors had been shut on Henry's rise, and he no longer had a foothold in the companies his uncle built. Thus, embodying the blazing entrepreneurial spirit that ran in his veins, Henry decided to build his own railroad company, acquiring the Los Angeles Railway in 1898. Leveraging the infrastructure of this company, Henry sought to render Southern Pacific's railroads null and void in Los Angeles by developing more modern electric railways in the city. Over the next few years, Henry began to implement electric railways throughout Los Angeles, which proved to be faster, more efficient, and more consumer-friendly than Southern Pacific's attempts. He enjoyed monumental financial returns, and by 1910, his new and improved electric railroad system covered over 1,300 miles of Southern California, a spanning network that gave the Huntington name yet more influence over the expanse of the Golden State. Such financial freedom also gave Henry the opportunity to give back to his community, which became a key part of his being in the 20th century. Henry used his wealth to donate precious land to be used as parks, many of which bear the Huntington name today. He also loved to donate to schools and universities to ensure that the next generation of individuals had better opportunities for growth and development. Another notable philanthropic venture of Henry's was his fascination with rare books, which he collected and made available to the public with the founding of the Huntington Library in 1919. And upon his unfortunate death in 1927, Henry gifted a large portion of his personal book and art collection to various universities. Ultimately, Henry Huntington's legacy is one of great proportions. Not only did he build upon his uncle's empire, but he also made it his life's mission to give back to the community. He left Los Angeles in a better place than he found it in so many ways, and further added to the established legacy of his family name. Upon Henry's death in 1927, the future of the Huntington family rested on three individuals. The first of which was one Helen Huntington Hull. Born April 1893, the daughter of not one but two wealthy and influential families, Helen Huntington Hull grew up in a world far removed from the early realities that her ancestor Collis endured. And her life was nothing short of a reflection of her innate high status. Helen had a love for opera and ballet, for instance, and in using her status as an American socialite, she was able to find a seat on the board of directors of the New York City Ballet, as well as the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Her marriage was also a reflection of her love for the higher echelons of society, as in 1914 she married William Astor, heir of the prestigious Astor legacy. The Astor legacy, like the Huntingtons, is one of rags to riches. Born in poverty, the family's founding father, John Jacob Astor, grew a business in the beaver fur trade to previously unseen heights, becoming America's first multimillionaire. Subsequently, the Astors built a real estate empire like the world had never seen, and through marriage to the Delano family, extended their influence into the sphere of American politics. By marrying an Astor, Helen Huntington Hull therefore extended her influence and power in society's inner circle dramatically, bringing the Huntington name with her. And though the two divorced in 1941, her life is a perfect reflection of the status that the Huntington name held come the mid-20th century. Collis's son, Archer, also enjoyed the fruits of his father's labor, though he preferred to spend his time surrounded by art, culture, and academia. Perhaps Archer's most notable contributions to the Huntington legacy come by way of his work in the field of Hispanic studies. In 1904, for instance, Archer founded the Hispanic Society of New York, a museum dedicated to preserving the knowledge of Spanish history. Further, in the same year, Archer became a fellow of the renowned American Geographical Society. 3 years later, he ascended to president of the society and, using his financial resources, helped to dramatically expand the organization and increase its influence, not only in the United States, but also on an international scale. And finally, let us turn our attention to Anna Hyatt Huntington, the aforementioned wife of archer and decorated sculptor. Anna, through her immense skill in sculpting, helped to propel the position of women in the field of art and show the world that the work of a woman can be as successful as a man, if not more so. Her career was particularly defined by her sculptures of animals, which were crafted with previously unseen skill and precision. The detail in her jaguar eating sculpture is particularly mesmerizing. Throughout the course of their marriage, the two also founded Brook Green Gardens, a now well-known wildlife preserve and landmark in South Carolina. Anna donated multiple sculptures to the preserve, and many can still be viewed decades later. Ultimately, therefore, subsequent generations of the Huntingtons have helped to preserve their great family name rather than detract from it, as so many old money inheritors do. And now, we'd love to see you in the comments. Are you a native of Huntington Beach or another area with the name Huntington associated with it? We'd love to hear your story. We'll see you below, and thanks again for joining us for another episode. Cheers, until next time.